Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome back to our Wednesday night live stream. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, and the newest member of the On Texas Football family, my good friend and esteemed colleague, my man Jeff Howes, joining us as well. And you guys, thank you guys for joining us. No matter where you're joining us from, we really appreciate it. We thank you guys for taking the time to join us. So the show is all about you, the show of the people, for the people, and by the people. So throw out your questions, comments. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. We know a lot of questions will be about recruiting. So that's why we got my man CJ and Jeff here to help break down recruiting, big recruiting weekend coming up. We'll talk about the official visitors, that big official visit list. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later on in the show. Also, Texas football, all the topics related to it. We'll dive into that as well. So throw out your questions and comments. Super chats, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. But we'll start with recruiting, and then we'll get to some of the questions and other topics coming up a little bit later on, guys. But I don't know, for some reason, Longhorn fans have they don't think there's enough momentum, I guess, this early on in recruit. They want more splashes. You had that run where you had like what 3 or 4 commits in like a 3 days or something like that. I think the Longhorns they get a little bit addicted to that feeling. All right, that little, you know what I mean, that surge of adrenaline, they get used to that. I think they want more of that. But you put out a great tweet yesterday, CJ, from, I believe, bumping a tweet you had from 2024 in regards to this very topic, actually, about Texas. I don't know if you want to say starting slow in recruiting, or if you want to say, Texas, taking their time, recruiting to the whistle, however you want to describe it. But as you pointed out on social media, there is no need for Longhorn fans to panic or freak out about this.
Yeah, I don't think so. And what's interesting is, look, I have 2 main points to make of all of this, right? And here's the tweet. It's Sarkisian basically saying, hey, I'm generally not one to panic, especially in the middle of June and July. Let's talk in December and see where we land. Obviously, this was around the same time last year where maybe you saw some frustration. Maybe you saw some commitments and decisions go elsewhere. Maybe we're leaning to Texas. As we know, Texas finished the class pretty darn well and finished with the number 1 overall recruiting class for 2025. In a bit of a similar spot now. Texas up to 13 commits in the class, 3 of which are specialists. So you got 10 position players. You entered June with 8. So it's Hayward Howard, Eheim Riley. You look at, Corey Wells, Dylan Berryman as the other guys that entered the class as well. 2 things. 1, I think Texas is in a great spot to finish with the top 3 class. Once again, absolutely think that they're on track to finish top 3 once again. And the second thing is this. Look, you recruit at a high level. Everybody that you recruit hard, bring on for an official visit, end up elsewhere, is going to feel like a significant loss. That's just the matter of the fact. You're recruiting really good players, and you're recruiting really good players from across the country. So it's not like it's everybody from your backyard. But now and again, you'll come with the exception of a KJ Edwards, who Texas is in for, visits A&M. He ends up with A&M. It feels more significant than what it is. And look, that's a significant loss. A&M ended up winning that recruitment. Texas will have their opportunity later on in the cycle to get back in it, of course. But my big thing is Texas is in on the right guys. We've talked about this at length now. Texas has a plethora of front 7 talent coming in, maybe as talented a front 7 group I've seen come in for a single specific weekend in my time covering recruiting. And on top of that, again, if I couldn't reemphasize this enough, every recruitment that feels like Texas was in there pretty heavily for, but it doesn't go their way, it's going to feel significant because the player is that good. That's just the level of guys Texas is after right now. And the good news is there's 2, 3, 4, 5 guys at that same position that you could point to and say, they're pretty darn good, and Texas is right there for them as well.
Yeah.
I would be really concerned if these 2 things weren't working for Texas, and they both are. Number 1, if I was hearing about guys having bad visits to Texas or bad vibes from the staff, or this coach doesn't know what he's doing, he's in over his head, coach is making a bad impression on families, I'm not hearing any of that. So guys are having good experiences when they visit Texas. So that's not part of the problem. I would also be the other thing. The other reason why I'm not concerned is I wrote about this last summer. Texas is starting to deal with first world problems.
Mhm.
Kirby Smart's dealing with, that Nick Saban dealt with, that Urban Meyer and Ryan Day dealt with. At some point, when you start loading up on blue chips, it's real easy for other coaches to start looking at that depth chart and telling kids, hey, if you go to Texas, when are you going to see the field? Like, if you want to play early, how's your path to the field at Texas? So between that and NIL, there's a lot of things at play where Texas can be sitting really good in the recruitment, and for no fault of the staff, it just doesn't go their way. And look, these other schools have NIL money too. These other schools have really good coaches. These other schools, you're recruiting against the best programs in the country. With all due respect to the programs I'm going to mention, it's not like you're losing recruits to Baylor and Texas Tech and TCU and Oklahoma State. You're going to lose them maybe to Clemson and Alabama and Georgia and the ever underachieving Aggies. Like, yeah, that's who you're going to lose recruits to. And you know what? That's part of the deal. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But that to me, Rod, that's the biggest thing that changed to me for Sark is now where you could sell talent acquisition. You could sell, come to Texas, be a part of the rebuild, be a part of building something special. Now that depth chart, that the roster is chock full of blue chips, now it's the gift and the curse. Now it's kind of working against you. So, and look, you got to be real with kids. Like if you're an offensive lineman wanting to come to Texas right now, it may be a minute before you see the field. But I would rather have that. I go back to the Adrian Peterson recruitment. I would rather have Mac Brown, as much as it hurt. I would rather have Mac Brown tell Adrian Peterson, yes, Cedric Benson's a starting running back. You may not start as a freshman. Then blow smoke, and then a guy gets upset when he gets to campus and he's not first on the depth chart. And now with the portal, it's much easier to transfer out than it was 20 years ago. So
good point.
I continue to believe that Sark and this organization are doing things the right way. They're going to win some, they're going to lose some, but as long as they continue to evaluate and get in the fight for the right guys, it'll all even out in the end.
Yeah.
One more quick thing. I see Gilbert's comment about, was KJ Edwards a high? At no point was he a high for Texas, or at least no point did we have that for him. And at no point prior to his decision was he ever a silent to Texas A&M. I think that all kind of stemmed from his visit to College Station. Again, a loss for the Longhorns, but again, if there's anything that we've learned over the last 4 years with Sarkisian's recruiting is, hey, by June 5th, by December 5th, by December 12th, whenever signing day is, they're going to be all right.
Yeah, no, it's and I see a lot of people talking about kind of the NIL aspect of it, that it may just come down to that. I will say this: I think Sark, of course, he understands the NIL world, but I do think they want guys who have other priorities that emphasize things other than just NIL. You're going to get the NIL, but so it is possible to have some guys just like, hey, man, I'm just taking top dollar figure. That, yeah, Texas may miss out on that guy. I mean, Sark just kind of hinted at that if that's the case. And by the way, ain't nothing wrong with that, by the way. Ain't a damn thing wrong with that. That is, so I'm not hating on or judging that decision at all. I'm just saying for Sark, him saying that may be someone that is not necessarily right for what Texas wants to do and for how Texas wants to, prioritize the really, with the values of the recruits they're bringing in and that kind of stuff. So it is possible, in my opinion, that it could have just been an NIL decision. If that's the case, then I think Sark, they want to make sure that they're on the side of the guys who are not just looking at the dollar figure as their number one priority.
Hey, but Texas has NIL money too. I mean,
they do.
Colin Simmons and Justice Terry didn't end up at Texas just because Sark's a great guy and they wanted to be Longhorns. That's part of it. But
agreed.
I mean, Texas throws around money too. But I'll say this too, and I think this goes back into the roster value discussion. I feel like Sark is handling the NIL piece of this the way I always viewed how, if I was a college coach, how I would have handled taking care of my roster in the pre-NIL days. I would much rather make sure my starters, guys that are quality contributors in my program, are being taken care of by friends of the program than dropping bags just to get kids to go to school. Because that, If you're just dropping bags just to get a kid, and that's the only reason they're coming there, and I'm not saying anything negative about KJ Edwards or anybody like that, but if that's the only reason kids are picking a school, 9 times out of 10 they end up transferring and it doesn't work out. If that's the main reason why they went somewhere.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I agree with that. And honestly, I don't know if the guys regret that decision because you can transfer now and really kind of get that new slate if you want to. But it's a tough, I think, issue to navigate because how you tell somebody, not to take money, the highest dollar figure. Like I would never tell somebody that. And I don't think the coaches operate that way either. I think they try to show them, or at least from what I've been told, that there's longer value. All right, long-term value in choosing a brand like Texas. If indeed it is about the money and Texas may not be offering the top dollar, and there's other added value and more long-term value in the relationships you get from Texas and other schools. But that's a sales pitch that not every kid is going to be interested in. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a couple of questions. Oh, we got a super chat from Aloha Traveler. Thank you, Aloha Traveler. We appreciate it. It says, Aloha fellas, not freaking out, but could it be time for Texas to become more of an NIL predator like other teams? Recruiting is evolving by the day, but UT is going head to head with more aggressive teams. Yeah, there you go. It's kind of what we were just talking about, guys. What are your thoughts? NIL predator. I like that. I like that term there. NIL predator.
Yeah, to catch a predator, look, all you got to do is be a 4 or 5 star, right?
Oh, come on.
I wonder where you're going with that.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
All right, we'll ditch that idea, that concept. But look, the big schools that are making splashes, obviously USC, Miami have been big factors. Oregon's always going to be one as well. You can even look at Texas Tech out of the portal, who's really been one of the bigger threats to just about anybody who's entered the portal and wanted to seek one of these top guys, whatever position might be. The thing is, and Jeff, I thought you just laid it out perfectly. Texas doesn't really lead for NIL. And I think that's something that might keep them a bit distanced from others that do. And that's why you don't see many decommitments later on in the year, right? We could talk about USC and kind of their woes in recruiting for however much longer we're on tonight, Jeff. That's one of their things. Lead with NIL. You get the early rewards, but that sets you up for your season to not go the way that you want, relationships maybe to crumble a little bit later, another school to come in off of a better season, maybe with proximity or a deeper relationship. And now you're seeing kids jump or leave the boat. So I think Texas does it the right way. And you really don't see NIL lead the way for Texas in its recruitments. I know it's a big part of it. I'm not going to deny, and Jeff, you mentioned it, it is going to be a factor for recruitment. Welcome to 2025. Every school has money. Every school is going to play this game. But Texas tries to get you on board with the campus, with the facilities, with the program, with the city, with the 40-year decision after campus beforehand. And there really aren't many conversations that happen NIL-wise before around this time of the year, where, again, you start looking around other schools across the country, and you see it more. And, again, it's not a bad thing, right? You get guys in the boat. You did your job. You earned a commitment. Now, the whole thing is to get them to signing day. And so far, the blueprint for Sarkisian and his staff has been working. And what we've seen so far has been this June time in which it really starts rolling.
There's a difference. I'll never forget, man, when Urban Meyer was in between stops at Florida and Ohio State, because when he left Florida, it really started to go downhill at that point. And the culture was rotten and all kinds of stuff. And he said the 1 year he was out of coaching between the stops, he said there's a difference between collecting talent and building a team. And at some point, I lost sight of that. And he felt like that's why Florida was in the mess it was in. So, yeah, you can drop bags and you can get the best roster money can buy. Did it work out for Texas A&M with a 22 class? I know that's the example. We all like to poke fun at the Aggies, but that is the prime example of why you can't just buy the best class available. And there's nothing wrong with A&M doing that. Again, I'm not knocking A&M for doing it, but that doesn't guarantee you anything. It just means you've got some really talented players. You still got to have a culture. You still got to have a good program. You still got to have strong leadership. You got to have all that stuff in place for it to work. And A&M didn't. And the other thing too, CJ, I think we got to remember this. we can talk about, I think the term Aloha Traveler used was NIL predator. And Texas spends in NIL. We're not going to sit here and deny that. That would be disingenuous of us. But Sark has even talked about this, man. The NIL funds, even for the Texas football program, it's not sold as at the all-you-can-eat buffet, man. It's not endless. It's not bottomless. There comes a point where you don't have any money, and at some point things we've heard throughout the years, whether it be high school recruiting or portal recruiting, as you manage your salary cap, for lack of a better term, it just becomes, when you look at a prospect, does this make dollars and cents? Does this make sense fiscally to do this? Or is it fiscally irresponsible to go above what we had designated at this position? Those conversations happen inside Moncrief. So I wish it was as simple as, everybody going into the Scrooge McDuck money bin and just letting it flow, but it doesn't for Texas or Ohio State or Alabama or whoever. It just doesn't work like that. And, it does. If a kid picks somewhere else because of NIL, if NIL is the trump card, I don't think that means they're a bad kid or they would have ruined the culture at Texas. Man, it is what it is. I think it just goes back, CJ, to what you mentioned at the top. This is big boy recruiting, and hey, the pressure's on Sark to get talent, no question, to get over the hump and win a national championship. Pressure's on Kalen DeBoer too. There's pressure on Kirby Smart and Josh Heupel and Brian Kelly and Dabo to get it back and Billy Napier to save his job. And there's pressure on Mike Elko and Brent Mills. All these guys you're recruiting against within the conference, and that you're competing with Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame or Ryan Day at Ohio State. There's pressure on all these guys to go get talent. They got to have NIL funds too. They got to be able to close on some of these recruitments too. So you just have to make sure, CJ, that you're winning your share of battles, and you end up in a recruiting cycle with enough guys that you feel like we've got enough potential difference makers at key positions that can help us win a national championship. And I'm not saying this to poo-poo recruiting rankings or anything like that, but Sark has proven in the 22, 23, 24, and 25 cycles, Texas ended up with enough of those guys. And I feel like push comes to shove, they'll end up with those kind of – I mean, we're not talking about it, CJ, and you don't want to put the cart before the horse, but we talk about O-line recruiting. I mean, Texas is at a place right now where you can lose a guy like Samuel Roseboro, a prospect that I really, really like. You can lose him to Texas A&M and still legitimately look in the mirror and tell yourself, you can sign an elite recruiting class on the offensive line. Not like a good class, a class that you feel good about, a class that you feel like these dudes can go help you win championships down the road.
Right.
Like that's where the interior defensive line is another one of those. We talk about Vodney Cleveland or James Johnson now with a visit, but between edge and interior defensive line, you're getting the kind of front seven difference makers on defense. Look, the SEC is the ultimate line of scrimmage league in college football. I've said that for years, and after a year of really, really watching it closer than I ever have, man, that's as true as ever. It is a line of scrimmage league first and foremost. You better be good, you better be talented, you better be deep in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And that's where that's another reason why I'm not sweating some of these recruiting losses, because I've never in my lifetime seen Texas recruit in the trenches the way this staff has. We know Kyle Flood, CJ, he's not going to cut corners on the offensive line. And Kenny Baker, I think, has done a really good job with one kind of truncated cycle under his belt. Now that he's got this 2026 cycle to have that at full go, Kenny Baker's going to end up with a really good interior defensive line haul by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And, it's funny we have these conversations about NIL and sometimes folks on the inside, for Texas fans, Texas circles, they hear that and they say, well, that's not the whole reason why they're committing to Texas. And then folks on the outside who don't really follow Texas say, oh, that's absolutely the entire reason why. Well, it's two-faced, right? A lot of teams have money across the entire country. And there was a report that came out a few days ago about Missouri spending $31 million over its entire athletic budget. Look, we had the conversation off air earlier today, Jeff. How much of that do we really think was spent outside of football? Probably not much of that $31 million. Then you look at what Texas Tech was able to accrue throughout its entire athletics department as well, with the report of it being around $55 million. So, look, losing recruiting battles to NIL is going to happen. Folks have big wallets. Folks have deep pockets. And normally those folks are pretty passionate about their football team. So, look, I think it's one thing to say it's going to be all fine and dandy in 6 months. It's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. But, you know, for Texas right now, it's going to be exciting with at least this group of guys coming up this weekend. I think it's going to be a pretty loaded weekend for Longhorns. We'll see if there's any more highs moving forward. But, Jeff, we do have another super chat. This from Joshy Manning. We have to remember, too, more early spending means less money later. Absolutely right. And, look, we talked about it. USC's loaded up to about 27 commits in their class. I've heard they wanted to take up to 35. Right now, they're kind of in a position where they have to keep them on ice moving forward for that right guy, those late development guys. Who knows if there's somebody in their class that doesn't figure out, you know, or doesn't figure into the picture for the long haul. So Texas continuing on its track that we've seen over the last 2 years where it's, hey, you come in around 8, 9, 10 commits in middle of June. You get to July around 14 or 15, and then you finish the thing out as the season continues.
You know, there's I think you have to take it to case by case within position groups too. Like wide receiver is one of those, and I'm kind of getting away from Josh's point because I see it. Trust me, like, you know, like I said a little bit ago, Texas has a salary cap, for lack of a better term, and that's part of Brandon Harris's job actually as the general manager of this program to help manage that. Again, I'm not saying I'm not giving any inside secret. Like Sark has talked about that, so that's just the reality of where they're at. But I think you got to look at recruiting wins and losses and guys you're missing out on or guys you add. I think you got to look at it case by case within position groups. Like, you know, the offensive line, man, if you want to take 4 or 5 offensive linemen every year, go for it. You want to take, you know, 3 to 5 interior defensive linemen a year, go for it. Like wide receiver is one that if, you know, if Texas were to miss on a wide receiver, you look at the depth chart on campus. Rod, we talked about this a little bit on the live stream last night because I believe it was Fox Sports put out a list of kind of the 10 instant impact freshmen, and they put Khalil Lockett in there. Well, I'm like, if you're a freshman wide receiver at Texas, you may be really good, but you may not be able to get on the field hardly at all as a freshman because there's just so many talented guys in front of you. So assuming if you have little to no attrition, well, if you're a freshman in the 2026 class, now you're behind the guys that were in that 25 class that had to wait their turn, that are now ready to step up and take their spots on the depth chart. So again, it really is. It's first world problems. This isn't Charlie Strong waiting until Thanksgiving to get a recruiting cycle started. This isn't Mac Brown just trying to get recruits just to drum up, you know, kind of false momentum in the summer and just taking guys for the sake of taking them. You know, this isn't Tom Herman trying to see how many recruitments he can botch by being Tom Herman down the stretch, which happened more times than I'd like to think. Like, Sark has his stuff together. He's got a plan. He's got a vision. He's seen it through. So, again, Cisco, you might be right. Cisco Diaz, you might be right. Only casuals panic. I mean, I've taken it. CJ, I'm sure you have too. I've taken calls and texts this week from, you know, some people that have forgotten more Texas football than I know. What's going on in recruiting? Well, it's a life recruiting in the SEC. It's part of the deal. You know, I think Smooth, said it a little bit ago in the chat, like, welcome to recruiting in the best conference in the country. Like, yeah, the SEC is the one league where, man, you can finish with a top 10 class. That class might be in the top half of classes in the conference if you got a top 10 or 12 class.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, it's just so interesting in the NIL era, and now with revenue sharing coming about too, right? You're gonna have basically salary cap, and in no uncertain terms, a salary cap. Be interesting to see, you know, where teams get the value. Right, the NFL is all about value, finding the hidden value. You as a GM, you're supposed to find the hidden value. Everybody's got a salary cap. So where are you going to find your hidden value? Is it with undrafted free agents? Do you hit really good in the late round? Do you find starters in the 5th round when nobody else does? Right? Where do you find is your value? Did you find a starting quarterback as a rookie on a rookie contract, which gives you a ton of value where you can spend a ton of that money to build the rest of your roster? Obviously, college sports is different, but now we are talking about a kind of a fixed amount of money you have to spend on your roster to build it. It's going to be interesting to see where Brandon Harris and Sark find, the value. And sometimes it can be, I heard somebody else talking about this, like they were thinking, with the new landscape of college sports that, if Sark is building it this way and the sales pitch now is, hey, we've had more players drafted in back-to-back years than everybody else. Just so we're the only team that's been, to the Final Four in back-to-back years. You know what I mean? Like, and the sales pitch begins, if you come to Texas, you may not make the biggest amount of NIL money initially, but you have a better chance of achieving your ultimate dream and getting the long money and achieving whatever your long-term goals were as a young athlete. And I do wonder if that is now becoming a bigger part of Sark's pitch because it's reality. And he just goes, not everybody wants to be a part of it, but if you want to be a part of, something special we're building and we got the evidence to show it, maybe that's a little bit of our value, is that, yes, we offer what we think is, and he's also basically said this, what we think the range is for this position, much like NFL salary cap positions are slotted based on whatever the franchise tag number is for, that specific position, but it's a premium position or not. I think Sark addresses it like premium positions. There are guys on this roster, I'm sure, making tons of money. And I'm sure when they first came on, they got a big bag, but they may have been in a premium position and they might have been prioritized over other guys. So I do wonder, like, where the value is going to come from in the construction of your programs at the college level now that you have revenue sharing, NIL, and essentially a salary cap in no uncertain terms.
Yeah. I also wonder too, Rod, like, how, when you go to 105, how do you manage like those last, let's say your scholarships, like your scholarship 98 to 105, like basically, do you bring guys in and kind of make it like an NFL practice squad? Like, hey, these are guys we really like that in a normal cycle we wouldn't have been able to take, but we're going to take them and stash them away for a couple of years and develop them, make sure, you're taking care of them a little bit from an NIL and a rev share standpoint so they don't transfer. But, man, if you want to bet on yourself and believe in development, I don't know, maybe that's how Sark plays. I don't know. It remains to be seen. Like, it's, because you're not going to have your walk-on program anymore.
No.
And honestly, man, there are worse ways to develop talent than, getting scholarship guys to be on a scout team for a team that in theory is going to be competing for a national championship every year. So, I mean, that's part of what you're talking about. Yeah, that's going to be another part of it. Like, how do you manage? Now you're managing with 85 scholarships. Now you got 20 more onto that. Like, what do you do with those 20? How do you break them up? And I will say to Paul in the comments, because I did mention it's my nightly Tom Herman bashing moment. And you have a P chart in your home, so don't hate Herman. I'll say this: I don't have a chart, but I don't know about you guys. I can't go number one anywhere at all without looking at the color and thinking, all right, am I a good teammate or am I headed like to Area 51? I had to mow grass today. I hydrated. I will let everybody know before Rod and I recorded football theory this evening. I am a good teammate.
There you go.
So,
there you go. You should have one of those up in the back, though. It's not bad, those hydration charts. It actually did make sense. I mean, you want to be hydrated. It's important, especially in Texas.
I need the actual like Tom Herman chart. I need like the Tom Herman categories. Like,
no, I'm sure. No, it's online. I mean, you can just get a photo of it online and print it up. I'm sure of it. I've seen people make fun of Texas using that chart on like social media, so I know it's out there. But yeah, I mean, hey, Tom Herman he was serious about it. He was building a culture. I
haven't told him. There it is. I haven't told him this. I think Anwar Richardson's the one that tweeted it out. I think Anwar tweeting that out is why we can't use the bathroom inside Moncrief anymore.
Look at that.
Thanks, Anwar.
You are a bad guy if you got that.
Bad guy, yeah.
You're a bad guy. I mean, what does that even mean? How you're a bad guy? It just means you got some bad habits that makes you a bad guy. Look, yeah. Blatant disregard for your teammates. You are headed to Area 51.
if
That's
you're
crazy.
if you're in that bad guy cat, like if your urine color is more burnt orange than the uniform,
That is what it
you
is.
probably need a kidney transplant. Like you need to go to a hospital, man. You don't need to worry
That's
about.
what it is. That's exactly what it is, Jeff. It's like it's more burnt orange than the actual burnt orange, than the Longhorn burnt orange. Oh man, yeah. Try to get to those championship hydration levels this summer, guys.
I'm
That's
there
what you
right
want
now.
to be. Boom, 1, 2, and 3. That's championship hydration levels. I'm not gonna tell you where I was just a couple of minutes ago, but I'll keep that to myself. All right, before we get to
Rod was checking to see CJ was dropping little nuggets over there. Like Rod was seeing if maybe Chris Hansen was coming around the corner. I can guarantee
Hand up, that's on me.
if CJ came home and Chris Hansen was sitting in like a bar stool, being like, CJ, why don't you have a seat? Like that would definitely be worthy of a hat throw.
Yeah, I wouldn't enjoy that.
Oh man,
that would be a hat throw and then a sprint out the door. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm surprised CJ even remembers that show, man. That was old school. Sorry, CJ remembers To Catch a Predator back in the day.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back on track here. Let's thank our sponsor before we move on. Let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on. Flat Creek Estate Winery, folks, is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. I love the Super Texan. My wife loves it. Her mom is a big fan of it. We've enjoyed it as a family over the holidays. Super Texan now available at your local Specs, so you can give it a try there. They also have a display of our friends over at Flat Creek, over at the local Central Market here in Austin. I saw that not too long ago as well. So the great word is getting out about the wines over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Flat Creek, not only a producer of some of the best premium wines on the market, but also it's a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. Really appreciate our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery for their ongoing support of On Texas football. All right, let's get back to the questions here. How about this one? How about this from Derek? Says, what shade of orange is Dre Quinn picking? A young man deciding between Clemson and Texas, I believe.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Expected to have a decision tomorrow afternoon. Look, coming off of the visit on Sunday, I think it was all going to be Texas and Clemson. Evidently, that's going to be where this decision comes from. He told me he wasn't going to take his Notre Dame official visit this weekend. And here we are, right? Is it Texas? Is it Clemson? Look, I think he likes Texas a good bit. I think Clemson might be the team with maybe a little bit more steam. So it's going to be interesting to see where this decision goes. Texas gave him a lot to think about. He spoke very highly about their pitch to him and how he would be used off the edge, how he would fit into the system. But Clemson's been on him maybe a little bit longer. He's been on campus a couple more times. He's only been to Texas twice. So it feels like right now things are pretty even, maybe leaning ever so slightly to Clemson. And again, this kind of comes into my first point of the evening is you get to this point in this many recruitments, especially at the edge where your guys are all recruited within the top 200 across the country, a loss feels very significant. And then you see what else is on the board. And you say, okay, all you got to do is land two, and you've got yourself a heck of a class. So if he's one of the guys that Texas gets in the class, you got a heck of a target, or you got a heck of an edge prospect. If he's not, well, then Texas is in there for a number of other guys as well. But right now I lean Clemson just ever so slightly at the moment.
That is one, though, that if it doesn't go Texas away tomorrow, if I'm Lealon Clark and Kenny Baker, I stay on Dre Quinn. I recruit that dude through the whistle. I just think he's really freaking good. I should stop saying which guys are my favorite prospects because it hasn't gone good for Texas in those recruitments. It hasn't trended the right way. So
you're the kiss of death lately about the guys.
I guess I should shut my hole, but no, I do think Dre Quinn's a hell of a prospect.
Yeah, no, I've liked what I've seen from the young man too. I watched a little film on him. He's legit. He's basically got all the raw material you need, and I like him. He plays multiple gaps up front too. It's one of those gap flex guys. All right, thank you for the question. Getting back to it here. How about this one from Tennessee Longhorn? Do y'all think there will be less flips due to rule changes and recruits allegedly being paid $20K to stay committed? Ooh, retention fees. That kind of stuff. All right, thank you for the question, Tennessee Longhorn. What do you guys think? New rule changes. Yeah, there's some people talking about, that There may be longer term contracts with some of these guys. If you can get them in some NIL opportunities. What are your thoughts about how the new rules may change retention rates with these schools and less flips during recruiting season?
To me, and I can't speak on recruits allegedly being paid to stay committed or to take visits. It happens across the country. Where does it happen? Well, you kind of have to guess on that, right? The big thing is there more enforcement as we near this revenue sharing for the paybacks of deals that aren't carried through, right? It was Arkansas that was originally saying, hey, who was it? Uyagalele, we need that money back from whenever he signed in December, got on campus for four months, and then said, no, I'm actually going to go to UCLA. Well, they paid him a pretty good chunk of money to commit and sign. And yet 4 months in, what did he fulfill out of that NIL deal? They're pushing back for some of that money to return to Fayetteville. Is that the case for a lot of these guys that flip later in the cycle? I would imagine schools are trying to get that money back. Right? You created this NIL deal to get guys in the boat, to get them to sign, to get them on campus. And if they don't, well, one side held up their bargain, the other side did not. That's going to be really interesting as well. Do I think there will be more flips? Well, in the instance of, let's say, a Mark Bowman, right? I have no reason to think that he's going to say no to whatever the reported number of $7 million is that USC is expected to pay him. Why would you? Is that number going to be met by anyone else in the country? So far, no. And that's why he was able to commit to USC immediately. So I see it as a way that you pay basically a ticket fee to get in on the recruitment, to get them into the boat, and then you got to figure out ways to hold on to them. You got to have short concession lines. You got to have fun rides. If you're a park or whatever, you got to make sure that you get guys there, but you keep them in the boat. We'll see. I think with the way that these are all kind of being front loaded right now, there's no way that many of these guys leave
like that.
Yeah. This goes back to something that I've worried about with NIL from the start. I don't think I'm not alone in this, but I just feel like I voice it louder than some people do. If guys have legitimate agents, like agents, or they're tied to agents that are certified with the NFLPA that understand how contracts work and things of that nature, I feel like it would be easier for guys to get out of that. They would know the loopholes and things of that nature if a guy did want to get out of his deal. It's when somebody's dad or your uncle who just happens to be an accountant, if they're running your NIL, that's usually when you see these things go sideways, there's usually somebody involved in brokering the deal that has no idea what they're doing or should in no way, shape, or form be involved in doing it. So that's my thing. If they're legitimate deals done, then that agent, that representative, whoever it is, should know the loopholes ahead of time. They're like, hey, if something happens and you need to get out of this or want to get out of it, here's how we do it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Jeff. I totally agree with that. All right. Thank you for the question there, Tennessee Horn. How about this one from DMX? Kobe 808 says, CJ and Jeff, which recruitments, in your opinion, will go to deadline day? Also, could you see wide receiver keys on campus by November?
Ooh, good question on both ends. I do not see Tristan Keys getting on campus at Texas. Look, he just signed a big NIL deal with Adidas. That's kind of why you see him backing off of LSU. That's why you see him taking trips to Miami. It's why you see him flirting with Tennessee right now, who is also in flirtations to flip over to being an Adidas school later on for their apparel. So, it's one of those things in basketball where you see a kid sign very early with a Reebok and Adidas and Nike, whoever, and they just end up going to schools that are sponsored by those brands. Right now, I see that being the case for Tristan Keys. Which recruitments, in your opinion, will go to the deadline day? Look, the big one for me is going to be Lamar Brown. He was expected on campus basically today and tomorrow for an unofficial. He's not going to make that trip now. He's going to stay home, go to LSU for June 20th official visit. He's on campus June 6th, but he always kind of teased that interest in Texas. And he said his best relationship and all of his recruitment is with Alan Clark. That's going to be one, no matter where he ends up signing or committing to, over the next week or two, that's one I'm going to watch all the way through until the ink is dry.
Yeah. I'll just say that there's very few guys that have the leverage combined with the staff recruiting them having the patience for deals to go that long. So, I mean, it'd be like if Felix Ojo decided he wanted to wait and have things play out in the fall and then decide in December, he's one of the guys that can get away with it. Derek Cooper is one of the guys that I think can get away. Tristan Keys, like you're just talking about, Tristan Keys is a guy that I think could get away with it. But there's not a few guys. I feel, CJ, like there are the cutoff is probably starts earlier than you think, to where if a guy's going to drag it out, man, some staffs may just be like, we don't want to play that game. We'll just go. We've got somebody we feel like grades out almost just as high. We'll just go for a little further down the board and get that guy. It's not worth the headache.
Justice Terry comes to mind last year. Committed early, extended his all the way into December, basically. And, that's a guy that you fight for. Otherwise, to your point, Jeff, these coaches don't want to be there coaching for a college football playoff spot, but also having to recruit a kid every single day against 4, 5, 6 other schools when they already don't get much time off.
Yep.
Tennessee going back to being an Adidas school is a terrible move. It's a garbage move for that program. Sorry.
It's all about the money.
I no longer work at 24/7. I know they got the affiliation with the Navy game. I can say Adidas sucks. It looks cheap. It's awful. So it was a bad move, Danny White in Tennessee.
How do you really feel, Jeff? All right, let's thank our friends over at Vaughn Lane before we move on and answer some more questions here. Folks, it's always a bit of a hassle trying to get to in between the major Texas cities, Austin, DFW, Houston, San Antonio. And it's a bit of a toss-up, right? Do you deal with the airport chaos and hope your flight isn't delayed, or do you brace yourself for hours behind the wheel, battling traffic and burning an entire day of productivity? Well, now there's a third option, and it's better in each and every way. It's Vaughn Lane. I love the Vaughn Lane. I've taken it to Houston to visit family. I've taken it to DFW on business several times. You arrive at a luxury hotel terminal, no TSA lines, no long-term parking lots, just a seamless boarding experience that takes minutes, not hours. You settle into a plush leather seat, a hot towel, pillow, and blanket are at arm's reach. Your attendant offers complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips, a full meal. And if you need to relax, you can lean back and enjoy the ride. And if you want to stay productive, there is high-speed Wi-Fi and power at every seat. And while you're unplugging or powering through, the Vaughn Lane team, they're monitoring traffic in real time, using smarter routes and efficient detours to keep your trip smooth and on schedule. And now it's the perfect time to book your fall travel. Booking is open through September. So whether you're headed to a college football game, like a lot of you will be, or a weekend getaway, or a business trip that needs to be done right, Vaughn Lane makes the journey part of the reward. Vaughn Lane serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and in the Southeast, Atlanta, Nashville, and Memphis. Visit VaughnLane.com. That's VONLANE.com, and use the code OTF25 for $20 off your first ride with Vaughn Lane. Vaughn Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. All right, thank you very much to Vaughn Lane and their ongoing support of On Texas Football. How about this super chat from Splendid Daddy here? He said, with some early losses on the trail, might we expect some late flips, or will Texas just move on from most of these cats? Thank you, Splendid Daddy, for the super chat. Very kind of you.
Yeah, hey, great question. So they're going to continue to recruit through the whistle. It sounds tiring right now, but on their guys that they feel like are attainable, for their guys that they feel like are worth going to continue to recruit for, they're going to be right there all the way through. We saw it last year. We've seen it the year before. We saw it with Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill and Anthony Smith. Grayson Littleton was another one late last year that, if they feel like this is a guy that should be in this class, or that fits the criteria for what they want, they're going to recruit all the way through. So, yeah, there's going to be some flips in this class. There's going to be some late additions and guys that you probably just don't know their names of, as are we, right? We didn't really know about a Grayson Littleton until he ended up committing to the Longhorns late in that cycle. I'm trying to think, the big offensive lineman, Peyton Kirkland. No one really knew about his name until late in the cycle, and he ended up committing to the Longhorns kind of on a surprise. And you say, okay, where has this kind of been? So it's always one of those things with Texas recruiting. You never truly know what might pop up, but later in the cycle, they're absolutely going to be busy. They're going to string together a class that's going to be right there in the top 2 or 3 once again.
Shoot, Aaron Butler signed sight unseen.
Good point. That's another one.
Like he never even visited Texas and ended up signing.
Yeah, that is wild, actually. All right, another super chat here. Thank you, by the way, Splendid Day. We appreciate that. Jonah Williams enthusiast, thank you for the super chat. Says, just here to remind everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yep, damn right. We should celebrate that.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, as much as possible. But Rex St. Charles wants to know, should Jonah stick to baseball? Is what he wants to know. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say he should play both as long as he can, because it's just freaking cool. But in terms of where he has the highest upside, I don't know the baseball prospect in terms of him and his upside. I know it's tremendous from what I've heard. As a football prospect, like I said, I think the guy could win the Thorpe if he reaches his full potential in football. He's that damn good. And I can see you kind of designing coverages and designing a defense, like just to maximize and weaponize his skill set. That's how special he is. But hey, baseball is a lot of guaranteed money, straight cash, homie, healthcare for life. There's a lot of benefits to being a Major League Baseball player, so I get it.
Yeah, Schloss had Chad Huffman at TCU, who was a 2-sport guy who eventually had to pick one or the other. Jonah Williams, he's the closest thing I've seen to him was, probably back in the day when Chad Jones was at LSU. Like, you were an NFL caliber safety for a national championship winning football team, and you were a legit big time contributor for a baseball team that won it all in Omaha. And he was drafted twice in baseball, then was drafted in football. And I mean, who knows how long Chad Jones would have played if it had not been for his car accident. So I mean, Jonah's got a bright future. I'm telling you, Drew Martin and the marketing folks at Texas, look into it, see what you got to do. You need the Jonah Williams poster recreating the Bo Jackson picture where he's wearing the shoulder pads. He's got the bat draped across his back. I need the Jonah Williams Bo Jackson tribute picture. I need that poster circulating this fall.
I agree. Yep. And Jonah Williams enthusiast would agree with you too as well. Jonah Williams enthusiast, he wants that. I guarantee he would have it like posterized on some wall. That is one of the coolest photos ever taken in history of sports.
Did you have that poster on your wall when you were a kid, Rod?
I did have that poster. I had that and some Dion posters. Yeah, I mean, I had that Bo Jackson poster. Who didn't? I mean, that was.
I had that. It was in the 1990 Score baseball set. Where that card was from. Every kid, I remember, your card collection was garbage unless you had that Bo Jackson card.
Yeah, no, and that's why, like I said, Jonah Williams is special. I do think he should play both as long as he can. It's just not a lot of athletes in the world that can do that at a really high level. And it'd be different if he was just, scrubbing it with one sport and then killing it with the other. We don't know how he's going to do in football yet because it hadn't started, but I'm telling you, he's going to be damn good in football. And I think people were surprised at how good he was in baseball, how quickly he had made an impact in baseball. And from what I've heard and talked to Schloss about him, he believes he's just as special on the baseball diamond as he is on the football field. Because I was talking to him, I was like, I think he'd be the best DB in the country. He was like, and he could on the baseball diamond, he can be just as special. How about once in a lifetime kind of special? So I don't know what the young man's going to choose. Yes, less CTE with baseball, more guaranteed money. You can play it for longer, lifetime health care, a lot of benefits to playing baseball. But some guys, their passion is football. I mean, they love it. The Kyler Murray is a primary example. I mean, he loved football. I mean, he was going. It was go top 10 in baseball too, right? Top 10 in both.
Number 9.
Yeah. It was crazy though to think like Galveston Ball, their graduation ceremony was on a Thursday. Jonah didn't go because he was getting ready for the regional the next night. The night after he was supposed to be walking across the stage getting his high school diploma, he's starting and gets 2 hits in a regional.
Crazy.
Exactly. He's built different, man. Some people are built that dude's built different, period. So I hope he plays both of them as long as possible. I really do. All right. Thank you for that. Let's get back to the questions here. Jedi Master Bevo says, Jeff, do you think Texas overall depth, especially being young depth, is being used by other schools to get commitments from kids leaning to Texas?
Shoot, if I'm recruiting against Texas, yeah, because what else do you have? Like you can't be like, well, Sark's not getting it done on the field. Yeah, they've been to the playoff the last 2 years. They've been to the semifinal last year, on the cusp of playing for a national championship. So it's hard to negatively recruit against Texas on the field, but it's easy to negatively recruit against the Texas depth chart because it's just that good. I mean,
stacked.
First world problems. It's a great problem to have for Sark.
If they're telling you they can guarantee you playing time right away, they're lying to you. And you can straight up say that if you're recruiting against Texas, like they lying to you, man. Go look at it right there. And
I think I mentioned this earlier. I wrote about this last summer because at SEC Media Day, I heard Kirby had mentioned it. I don't even think he was asked about it, but he mentioned it in his big press conference. So I went and talked to Michael Williams for a little bit and Malachi Starks and about, hey, did other schools negatively recruit you against Georgia and use the depth chart against you? And both of them like, oh yeah, like they both said the schools were like, man, you're not going to play 2-3 years if you go to Georgia. Like, why are you wasting your time going there? So yeah, Sark is dealing with the same thing now.
Yep. And the only way to combat that is to keep getting guys drafted. Because ultimately, guys are willing to stick around if they can see guys ahead of them getting drafted, fulfilling their dreams, and also they can see the pathway. It's like, oh, that guy's set for 2 years too, and still got drafted first round. Okay, that's why guys, during the Saban years and late and Georgia too, they can see the path. So you don't have a ton of guys leaving. You don't have guys leaving. That's just natural. You can't help that these days, the transfer portal. But you keep getting guys drafted, and they will continue to believe.
Yep.
And they'll continue to buy in that it'll be me next. That's the way. Texas is doing a good job of that. All right. How about this one? How about this one from AJJ? We already did that one. He said, do you have any other new updates on Drake Quinn for tomorrow? I think we got into that already earlier. How about this one is from Victor, says, is Sark getting more involved more now with wide receivers and running back recruiting?
It's a good question. He's very hands-on across the board, I'll say. I don't think really outside of quarterback that you'll see him maybe target one position over the other. I will say for a number of these big-time 5-star level national recruitments, he's pretty involved, right? Tyler Atkinson, that's one that he's taken head on, right? Jermaine Bishop early on, he said, hey, that's a kid that I've got to have in my class. I'm going to be a big part of it. So for wide receivers and recruiting backs, geez, it's been a long day, fellas. Wide receivers and running backs, look, he's going to be a big part of those recruitments because it's his offense, right? Yeah. Running back moving forward, he's got to have a hands-on approach because that running back pool that they're recruiting from isn't very deep, right? We're talking about only Xavier Crowell right now as an uncommitted running back that's been on campus. He's really actually the only running back that's scheduled to be on campus this month of June. So he's going to have to figure out what's next at those positions. But I know that that's going to be one of the big keys to Sarkisian's tenure here is quarterback, running back, wide receiver. They're not going to be thin really ever.
Yeah. The worst thing they can do, though, is panic and take a guy just to take a guy at running back. Like that's very, very rarely do those kind of moves ever work out for you. So I honestly, if it comes down to it, they may just start, scouting guys and looking at it and say, hey, we'll just take our chances in the portal to add a running back for 26.
That's interesting you bring it up because that was going to be one of the next questions. Freshwater Cajun with a good question here says transfer portal is flush with wide receiver and slim on interior D lineman, kind of giving the spectrum there. He says, where does running back stack up on the spectrum? Yes, good point, Jeff. I mean, there have been quality running backs in the portal. Not a ton, though. Not a ton.
No, the ones you have, it's usually like a Jahmyr Gibbs where you're going into your draft eligible year and you're looking to take a step up to showcase yourself.
Ohio State last year.
Yeah. Or very, very rarely, a coaching change happens and, you guys jump in the portal. But yeah, it's a Quinshon Judkins. That's the thing, recruiting portal running backs, the ones that you would want, more often than not, they're going to be 1-year mercenaries. But most portal guys are anyway. So, but there aren't a lot of them because most of your quality running backs are 3 and done to the NFL. There's just not a ton of guys hanging out there.
That's good. These days, yeah. If you're like we've talked about this with CJ Baxter, right? CJ Baxter has a good end to the season next season. Just a good 5-6 game stretch, maybe a little bit longer than that, against big time opponents, right? Against Georgia in the college football playoff. He doesn't need 1,000 yards. You don't need 1,000 yards to go to the league anymore as a running back. Matter of fact, the NFL, they don't even look at that as a knock against you. Matter of fact, some teams look at it as a plus because you haven't had the wear and tear that a lot of those 1,000-yard backs have had in college. So they just need to see the sample size, enough of it on display against quality opponents. If you're a running back, the way it's been devalued anyway, just get to the league. So it's not necessarily about getting drafted as high as possible anymore. It's about just getting to the league to start the clock on your career as a running back. So,
I mean, one example, I know Sark appreciated him staying in school next year, come back for his senior year. Maybe in terms of prolonging his football career for a guy like Najee Harris, probably wasn't the best move for a long NFL career to be in college 4 years.
That's a good point. I agree with that. All right, let's thank our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. Before we move on, we'll answer a few more questions, and then we'll end tonight's live stream. But first, a message from 2 legendary lifetime Longhorns about our friends at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
I thank you very much to our friends at Advanced Pain Care. A couple of more questions before we end tonight's live stream. Living rent-free in UT wants to know, is Derek Johnson the key to the Atkinson recruitment? Oh, man, I just hung out with Derek Johnson. You talking about the Derek Johnson, legendary lifetime Longhorn?
The very same.
Really?
Yeah, so 5-star Tyler Atkinson out of Grayson, Georgia, has been working in Austin a little bit this summer. He's been actually training with Derek Johnson a little bit in the Austin area. And again, Tyler Atkinson just this morning was announced that he's going to officially visit the Longhorns. I believe he actually put out a quote via Hayes Fawcett earlier this afternoon saying, I've gotten an idea of what Austin has to offer, right? The culture, the city. I want to see what the university is like a little bit more, and hence the official visit. But yeah, he's actually been working with DJ a little bit. And Rod, if you watch his tape, it's not crazy to say that he could be the next Derek Johnson.
Man, I didn't even know that. I wish I'd have known that. I was talking to DJ today, actually. Didn't realize it. Actually, I hosted Derek Johnson on his recruiting visit. Just want to throw that out there. So I did close that visit. Y'all are welcome, Longhorn fans. All right, getting back to
one of the best things that come out of Waco, Texas, that 254 area code, Dr. Pepper and Derek Johnson. Two of the finest exports.
Hey man, we got a couple of those. Is Kwame Cavill out of Waco?
Yeah, he was a Waco line. Yes, sir.
Yeah, out of Waco a little bit. You're right. Yeah, that's good. I like that. All right, getting back to it here. How about this one from Jedi Master Bevo? He says, for all 3 of you guys, we lost the original Florida and Georgia non-con games by joining the SEC, replaced one with Notre Dame. Who would you like to see the other one replaced with? Ooh, that is a good question. Oh, it's
easy answer for me. It's
okay.
Because Clemson's off the table now because Texas has played Clemson. That was one of my default answers. Texas has never played Florida State in football.
Wow.
Make a home happen.
Oh, I never realized that. What? Are you serious?
Texas has never played Florida State. And if you do it while Coach Brown's still with us, then you got a really good tie in there. So yeah, give me Texas and Florida State.
That's cool.
I like that pick.
That's good.
Florida State's good. I'm gonna go to the opposite side of the country. Give me Oregon. I want to see it. I want to see the recruiting battles that come down to it every July 4th, essentially. You know, there's going to be more over the next 3 weeks. But it's 2 teams that are just right there, right? They're on the cusp of becoming a Georgia, on the cusp of becoming an Ohio State, and they can't get over the hump. I want to see that battle. And you put whatever crazy Oregon jersey combination against the Icy Whites, sign me up. It's going to be a great optics game as well.
Oh man, that's a good one, CJ. I agree with CJ on that one. Talking about one of the kind of the new bloods versus the blue bloods of Oregon. I like that one, CJ. That's sexy.
See, Rex St. Charles has another one. We need some Texas at some point needs a little revenge for that 1991 Cotton Bowl fiasco. Get Miami on the schedule.
Ooh,
That's good.
That's
good, Rex St. Charles.
I'm gonna have to push back on Miami. Maybe this is just the youth in me. Miami doesn't move the needle for me one bit.
Yeah, see that's the case.
Yeah.
Because like if you
it probably is, but
I'll give you another one, CJ. Like if somebody told me, "Hey, Texas is gonna play Nebraska in a home and home," ooh, yeah, that does something for me.
Yeah,
yeah. No, Nebraska does absolutely zero for me.
Yeah, that's nostalgia. He's right. Jeff is right though. There's a little bit of nostalgia there. The Miami thing gets me excited, but yeah.
Believe it or not, that's Matthew's favorite stat down there.
Miami has the same number of ACC championships as Texas. That was nice. Well, I like that one. That was good. All right, that was a good question, though. That's a good one. I like that. I'll take the Oregon pick, though, with CJ. I think that's kind of sexy. All right, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge before we end tonight's live stream. Thank our friends over at South Point Dodge. You can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including the all-new 2025 Jeep Wrangler. Get the real deal today and drive away in the Jeep Wrangler. Also, my friends over at South Point Dodge also have the 2025 Ram 1500 available to you. So get that real deal today and drive away in the all-new Ram 1500, proven to last. Plus, you get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what the employees pay right now at South Point Dodge. You get the real deal today, no matter what it is. Maybe it's a car or a truck, something new, something used. Maybe it's a trade-in for you. Whatever it is, my friends at South Point Dodge are Austin's automotive everything. So check them out today for yourself off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go to southpointdodge.com online and make it easy for yourself. Get the easy extra point this season with our friends over at South Point Dodge. We appreciate all of their support and them sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. All right, first, thank you guys for all of the questions and the super chats. We really, really appreciate all of your participation on live stream tonight. Thank you, Jeff, for all the expertise. Thank you as well, CJ. Appreciate all of your knowledge. Thank you to the real MVP behind the scenes, my man Matthew. Couldn't do it without him, twisting and tweaking the dials. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Advanced Pain Care. Thank you as well to South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com, Flat Creek Estate, Winery, flatcreekestate.com, and bondlane.com. Use that code OTF25. You'll get $20 off your first ride with our friends at Bond Lane. Also, if you like more information, more nuggets, more great info, insider details from our staff, go to ontexasfootball.com. And right now is a great time to do it because you can become an OTFOG. That's the code you need to use, OTFOG, and you'll get a year subscription to ontexasfootball.com for just $39.95. You cannot beat that deal. The stuff we talk about here, just a fraction of the information that's available to you at ontexasfootball.com. Just remember to use that code OTFOG. All right. Thank you to all of you guys for watching and listening. If we missed any of your questions, I apologize about that. Please direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football bright and early tomorrow morning at 8:15, Bobby and Jerry. And we'll also have the winning drive for you tomorrow at 3:15, myself, CJ Vogel, and Coach Bob Shipley as well. So for CJ, and for Jeff, and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Until next time, hook 'em horns.